Now let's talk about how to save the throat. Sometimes you've been singing a lot, you've been rehearsing every day, you've been performing every night, you travel in between, sleep in hotel beds, eat hotel food. Sometimes your throat just doesn't feel good, it feels tired. And you have certain obligations you can't just cancel without making a big furor about it. So we need to figure out a way to sing and preserve our throat at the same time. Now, the way to do this, so far as we know, the best way ever found was somewhat the same way they train the Shakespearean actors when they go to London, if they want to be Shakespearean classical actors. The first exercise they give people is this one. A-E-O-U. And you eliminate the front of the mouth as a place to pronounce anything. Same like this, I put my teeth together, there's no room. So I have to go somewhere else, and of course the only space left is in the back of my mouth. So if I go, that's in the back of my mouth, it's in my pharynx. But is that one actually saving my throat? I'm still at this level. So what do I do if I want to move farther back and down? As Caruso said in his book, the A vowel was very far back and low in the throat. The low in the throat may be the whole secret to everything about being able to constantly, sing every day. And some singers really do not get vocally tired. They maybe get tired in the body, get tired in the legs, right? They ask the old singer, "How are you today?" He says, "The voice is good, but the legs. In other words, you should be able to sing, as far as your throat is concerned, you should never ever get vocal fatigue in your throat. It usually means it's singing too high in the throat. People that try to make a constant, trying to get the resonance up there, they very often raise the back of the throat up. Or they raise the soft palate and depend on the action of the palate upward to cause a reaction downward, which then lets the throat go down and phonate low in the throat. I think maybe the best way to do it is to simply start about right here and say the vowels below this level. So if I go, if I have a combination of words, right? You can say the words in a way that they are not the action of singing, the action of pronouncing, of phonating vowels, is not in my throat. The so-called first law of bel canto was no action in the throat, jaw, or tongue. So the tongue is supposed to be like this, and the jaw is supposed to be like this, and the throat is supposed to be like this. Now, if I don't use the throat, why in the world would there be a problem? If I do this is how I teach myself to relax my jaw. I do this. I'm going to do it again. My tongue goes here. But what about the vowel in the back of my neck, in the back of my throat? Do I say ah, or o, or any of those things that you hear people doing all the time? There was a way, however, to pronounce to phonate all of your vowels from here down. A, E, O, U. How are you today? So nice to see you. So I can speak down in my sort of at the bottom of my trachea, like this. Hello, how are you today? I can also breathe in a way that opens and gives me access to this tube that goes down here, and I really don't have to worry about stretching or pulling or forcing muscles or anything. I just breathe in a way that opens it completely up. Everything is absolutely relaxed. I'm not using any of this. Now, every action is an oppositional reaction. So if I do get an action here and go down, something then must go up. It's the law of one of the laws of physics. So I depend on that law, the third law of motion, to make sure my voice goes up and gets up in the head voice and the mask and all of this high resonating position. And I do it by doing the opposite as an action. I get that as this upper resonance as a reaction. So I go, it's not on my nose at all. It's way up here. So how do I learn how to say my words way down inside? Hello, how are you today? It's so nice to see you. I've got to go downtown to get something to eat. Well, if you were at the old Vic School or someplace in London studying classical speech technique, you'd be doing this. Now is the winter of our discontent. Of our discontent. Of our discontent. To be or not to be, that is the question. See? The idea is to not let it get up in this area at all. And imagine so many singers are singing up here, they're trying to sing the mask, and they're singing in the false mask across here, really, which is the famous hung line. Hung, it's in my nose. The whole thing is nasal. If I go yum, 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 it's in my nose. If I go yin, 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 yang, 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 it's in my nose. So the way you're supposed to correct that is by doing another action in the throat and lift something. Yang, 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 yang. I say it like this all the time. Hello, what language you know is spoken this way, actually, on planet Earth, as I say. A Wookiee, maybe. So the idea is to let your vowels and everything fall down your spine. Some people did Beniamino Gigli, Lauri Volpi, studied with Cotogni. And Cotogni taught them sliding back and down. So the vowels go like this. They go down the spine. Now, Herbert Cesani was the one who sort of coined the phrase. I don't know if you heard it from Cotogni, but he said the true mouth of a singer is the pharynx. The pharynx is the mouth of the singer. So when I say, you know, if I use one of these, how do they work? Someone will say, open your throat and yawn, and now get it focused. Yin, yang, yin, yang. Now, so is that the way this thing works? Is that the way it works? Make it big at the back and put it through a little narrow hole? Or does it work this way? And the little narrow hole goes way down my throat, and my pharynx back here is this part. So the mouth really doesn't play much of a role. The tongue in the front enunciates in a way that lets you make consonants. But we're talking about vowels and sound making, so I can go la 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 la. So the tongue in the front is busy sort of doing something to that sound that's already being made. It's symphonious way down inside somewhere. So the deeper I breathe, the lower it gets, and the first thing you know, I'm getting bigger and bigger drums, and we know what happens. The bigger the drum, the bigger the sound. We know that. So we don't little drums. If I have a smaller drum and I hit it this way, it makes a certain volume level. And if I hit it harder, it'll get louder, but it won't get bigger and fatter. It'll get yak yak like a snare drum. It'll go rat-a-tat-tat, and if I hit it harder, it goes rat-a-tat-tat, louder. But this business of a drum giving a deep color to do that, I've got to have a bigger drum. So I really have to change the drum. So I put away my snare drum and get some kind of big African drum, and I get that. Now when I play it, it goes boom, 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 because it's got air bucket underneath it. So that's one of the advantages of learning to phonate your vowels back and down your spine, or straight down right here, straight down in the trachea, and you. If I do that, my resonance comes up here. It's not my nose at all. It's above my nose. And there are certain singers, certain exercises we can do. Let's say I'm just worried about my nose, or my student has a very nasal voice, so what do I do to change that? Well, one way is to go which is in the nose. M's, or we don't sing on M, we sing it. Those people who sing on M sing in the nose, and their voices blend in the orchestra and don't project through the orchestra well. So if I go my nose open, but if I say a B right in the middle of that and go ba 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 ba, the B, my soft pedal went up like this and forward, as Lily Lehman said, up and forward. And if I do that, it closes off my nose, my nasal cavity. Caruso said in his book, never sing into the nasal cavity. Now remember, we're trying to save the throat, rest the throat. Those of us who, I'm 85 years old, I still sing all day, every day, and talk when I'm not singing. And sometimes I'm pretty tired in my body. But if I've managed to keep this phonation out of my throat and haven't used my throat still feels fine. So there's a lot of ways, many ways that are discussed. One is to become a hollow person. You're nothing but a big eggshell. There's nothing inside of you, and the air, except air, and the air goes all the way down to your pelvic bone, to the pelvis, bottom of the pelvis, pelvic floor, as they say. And when I say I'll let the vowel go down into that empty space. And you go, not in my nose. Can you understand me if I speak that way? Well, I'm busy saving my throat, but can you understand the words? I'm gonna go downtown, I've got to do some shopping. The pandemic has disturbed our ability to go and shop, so we have a lot of food delivered. Right? So that you can understand every word I say, in any language. Es fällt mir manchmal so schwer, ihre Liebe zu der unglücklichen Mörderin zu glauben. So viel ich weiß, hat sie doch ihnen jeden Pfennig zurückerstattet, den sie ausgegeben haben. Where did I say all the words? See, I went straight down, or I can slide back and down. Anything to get it out of the throat and leave the throat free to rest and recover. And I hope I never use my throat in a way that I need to rest and recover. What I really need more is a good night's sleep, and it'll rest my diaphragm. So my diaphragm's always work. You want the diaphragm to go down like this, and breathe, 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 and then you want the back half of your diaphragm to do this. And Lampredi, in his book, drew a diagram, drew pictures of how you should breathe. And you pull in your navel while you're breathing. But when you do that, I discussed that with a pulmonologist, and he said, oh, if you do that, you'll double your breath capacity. Well, that means I've doubled the size of my drum. Drum's it, got 2 lungs. So I breathe. Now, I can study what I did down there. I did a videotape on body responses, but I can certainly feel a tremendous response down in my lower back and in my rib cage and in my flank muscles. Way down there. So if I go, so all my vowels are this way, and all my resonance is this way. Now, I've sung a lot of performances, and I've been with a lot of big orchestras and big theaters. My record was 11,400 seats with no microphones. And you really have to. I guess that's how you find out what really does project and what really does cut through the orchestra. If you use this, think about this thing. I said, this thing is working like this. What do you think if I try to put my voice through a little hole? What do you think? So if I open it this way and you go, all it does is make my voice small and insignificant. So, but if I do this, see? Hello, how are you today? Can you hear me all right now? So I'm using the small end, which is way back here, and my throat is not this shape. The human throat is much more shaped like this than like this. But if I breathe properly, my throat will open, and I go. But at the same time, when I took that breath, everything went down. My throat went down, my larynx went down, everything went down. See? So I go. So I can say all of the words from here down. See? I got a lot of words to sing. See? If I want to, I go, well, where am I saying all these words? I'm sure not saying them in my mouth, and I'm not talking like that. A lot of singers get up and go, oh. Well, that's all mouth resonance. That's the way I sang when I was at the university. I sang as a bass. And I sang like, somebody says, oh, I like that better. Well, there's only one problem. That one doesn't carry. It won't project anywhere. It's all resonating all inside my mouth. So I sang for a professional singer named Mac Harrell, who's on the Toscanini recording of the Ninth Symphony. He's the bass baritone, magnificent voice, really. And I sang for him, and I got up to sing as a bass, and I went, oh, Lord, trouble. He said, wait a minute, can you put your head up? I'd really like to see your face when you sing. I said, okay. So I did it again, I went, oh, Lord, trouble. He said, wait. So he came over and he put his hand under my chin like this. He said, now sing. I went, he said, you're a tenor. I said, what are you talking about? You're a tenor and that's your real voice. I said, but there is no voice. He said, because you don't breathe. And he's the one that taught me the bigger the drum, the bigger the sound. If you need volume and projection, you need to breathe. Breathing will help form the throat into a shape that is a much better projector than the one that this one voice won't go anywhere. See? And it's also what they call chest voice. It's this kind of thing. Oh, some of the biggest belters in business and show business all have to have microphones. But you let them get rid of the bell and go, and you can hear it in every theater in the world. Right? So the idea is the piccolo will carry, and it's a tiny little instrument. The flute's a little bigger. Clarinet's a little bit bigger. The saxophone is bigger. The alto sax is bigger. Then you get into the tenor sax, and every one of them requires breathing and compression and a vibrating reed or mouthpiece. In case of brass, it's mouthpiece. But the idea is that each bigger instrument requires a bigger air column. Why does the clarinet need a rounder, somewhat longer, bigger air column than a flute? Well, because it is truly, the vibration set up by the clarinet reed is bigger than the vibration set up by the mouth when you're going on a flute. But the saxophone reed is bigger. It makes a bigger sound, so it's got to have a bigger air column, and so forth, right? Citizen Nikolai Jawless, a fantastic fellow, one of the best bassist boys I ever heard, and he played both trombone and clarinet. So he had both ends covered. But But there was a lot of people that played musical instruments. Benjamin Gili and played 30 years played saxophone. And Fritz Wunderlich played French horn for 30 years. Everybody was playing something or swimming, very extreme swimmers. Everybody was doing something to exercise the breath. If I do, I have room inside when I breathe. I can even be hollow. I feel like I'm empty on the inside. I'm hollow. I'm singing at the very bottom of the air bucket. But I'm not phonating like that. And I'm certainly not going I'm trying to make a ski slope. Why? Why do I put all that tension in my throat? See? The idea is that you don't have a throat. Your throat is off duty. It's not doing anything today. It's not working. And to do that, you must sing without a throat. And the only way you can do that is to sing down below it and inside. So it's something to think about. You will very often be tired in the throat. Everybody knows that a real knowledgeable singer can sing every day, all day, every day. I remember Helge Rosvanger. I studied with him about a year and a half, and he was a very serious practitioner of yoga. He was really a yogi. And he would rehearse 7 days a week in the morning, and then he would make recordings every afternoon, and then he'd sing a performance every night, 7 days a week, and he did it for 55 years. And so what do you attribute this phenomenal, unbelievable record of use of the voice? He said yoga. So his yoga, he spent 3 hours a day doing yoga. And you know how they sit cross-legged and go, see? Do I need to keep saying all those words? I guess so, right? But if I say them, I want them to be understood, right? I'm going to go downtown and get something to eat. You can understand me. I'll go with you tomorrow. Would you like to come over and have dinner? And the idea is you should be able to talk without bringing the voice up. Now, if you hear someone singing a little bit too nasal and brassy, well, let's discuss for a moment what's wrong with that. Look where my vowel is. So if I take that vowel while I'm singing, and I move the like this, back, and I get down, I try to get it below my throat, I get so there's no need to go on all of that stuff. If I'm depending on the opposite and equal reaction to the lift of the soft palate to make my throat go down, I'm fine, but I'm only using about this much of my body. I'm going, not a bad sound. It's usable, but I would rather go, this hyoid muscle here is completely soft. My larynx is just like this. Limp down like this. The whole area is not working. My jaw's loose. My tongue is doing nothing. So those of you who are suffering from vocal fatigue, God forbid vocal damage, believe it or not, you have to get below your throat to phonate your vowels. And if you do that, the third law of motion will guarantee that the resonance goes up and forward and hits you up here in the true mask. Hits you up here. Doesn't hit you down here. This is a false mask. Certainly doesn't hit you in the nasal cavity. See? That's completely wrong. So there are all kinds of exercises we do to activate the breath You sing one like yum 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 yum. You can do all the kind of things like that. So the it's got to be a lip clamp. It can't be loose mouth. You've got to make an action that causes reaction in your diaphragm and makes you take the energy down inside, and your phonation is low and down, as Caruso said, very far back and low in the throat. But then you have quotes like Kirsten Flogstad saying she felt like her voice came from the center of the earth. Rosa Bonsallo said deeper, and then deeper, and once you're deeper and deeper, then you go deeper again. So where are they singing? If I imagine I'm singing in my pelvic floor, I can I'm singing all the way to the bottom of my air column. And I did it by not using this, very, very strictly determined not to flex anything up here at all. So my larynx is absolutely loose. My throat's loose. My jaw's loose. Nothing is working from here up, probably including my brain. But listen, I can hopefully do what the great singers that I met told me to do, and I'm still doing it. I'm 85 and I still sing all day, every day, right? And I think that maybe there's something to this, because my voice is fine. You don't have to like my voice, but it still works, still fine. It's nothing like it was when I was a young man. I've got recordings to prove that I did have a voice once upon a time. Check out the website, Michael Trimble Tenor or something like that. And but you know, I've got some examples on there of the way I sounded when I was younger. And of course, I've got a recording of me in the Metropolitan Opera auditions, 1963. I've got tons of performance tapes all over the place, but let's just say I sang 64 roles, 43 major concert pieces of repertoire, things like Das Lied von der Erde Baller and the Verdi Requiem, and I sang like Stabat Mater, Puccini. I sang all the sort of big stuff, and of course Ninth Symphony a jillion times and Beethoven. But when you are singing, where you phonate your vowels? Wie seine Sonnen, seine Sonnen fließen, wie seine Sonnen fliegen, durch des Himmels freiem Raum. It's not exactly bel canto singing, right? But the main thing when you do concerts like that is just to survive. There's Fidelio, man, that's a monster. And even Salvatore Rossini's got a huge section where you have to repeat, sing a great big huge section. You have to repeat it immediately. And Wagner loved that. And Mike's a singer, which I sang. I sang for Lawrence Melchior, and he says, "You, what do you do? You're not a heavy tenor. You're a lyric tenor." I said, "A big one," he says, "big one. Lyrico forte," he called you in Italian. So I had a lyric voice, but it had plenty of carrying power. He said, "You must never try to say Tannhäuser, Siegfried, both Siegfrieds, and not Tristan and Isolde either. Those big four you stay away from. They are the difficult ones. You can sing the easy ones." I'll say, "What are the easy ones?" I said, Meistersinger von Nürnberg. I said, "It's 5.5 hours long." He said, "Oh, that's nothing. Don't they even think. You won't even think about it. You just keep singing until the performance is over. But it's not that bad." Well, I don't know, folks. I had to use a different vocal technique. I used what's called the sigh method for that whole thing, so I'd make sure that I wasn't half dead by the end of the performance. I was still able to get the notes. And his famous aria that he sings, which is the big competition winner, and he wins the girl. That one comes right at the end of the opera, about 5 hours and 10 minutes. He has to sing that. So you've been saying he sings the first note of the opera, by the way, way back over 5 hours ago. He sang the first note of the opera. The second act, he sings 9 verses of this aria. Some of you will recognize the music if I play it. Oh, yeah, I don't know where the keyboard is. Here it is. This music. Morgen ich leide im rosigen Schein, von Blitz und Duft geschwellt die Luft, und alle Wohnen nie sondern ein Garten lud mich ein, dort unter einem Lunderbaum von frischen Leibehang. Anyway, it goes on like that for nearly 5.5 hours. So, those of you who want to be professional singers, you have to learn something that's a very, very important part of being a singer, professional singer, that people, I think, tend to ignore a little bit. And they learn the hard way sometimes. But what you really have to remember is the key word is survival. If you can't get through the whole opera, you don't get paid. And you also, they don't trust you. They don't want to hire you in the future. They don't know if you're reliable or not. I remember Don Carlo of Verdi. In the French version, it's also 5 hours and 15 minutes long. It's a monster. And the high notes, 49 high B flats, 9 B naturals, about 1,000 A's and G sharps. He's hysterical. And his character's like that during the whole 5 hours. So you have to find a way to survive. And I heard Giacomini and Placido Domingo and Adegal and Carreras, I mean, a whole string of first-rate, beautiful tenor voices. All of them had to quit in the middle of the performance and let the understudy come in, or whoever, the person that was covering that day would have to come in and sing the rest of the performance. I heard a performance of Tristan and Isolde in New York in the Metropolitan Opera in 1960, where they had 3 tenors, one for each act. Nobody could sing to get through the thing. Well, I've got tapes of me getting through, not tenors. Actually, I have tapes of it with piano, but I never sang with orchestra. And I never tried. I heard that orchestra, I said, holy cow! You know, Siegfried is a monster. You can't believe the orchestration. And you're supposed to be a human being, and you're supposed to be able to sing that and toss it off and sing it again tomorrow night. Well, some of those big Helden tenors that were around when I was a young man, they had Max Lorenz in Berlin, who sang all the heavy stuff and could sing it every night. What's his name? Lauritz Melchior was still singing concerts. I heard him singing concerts. I couldn't believe the voice. Good Lord, what a monster! See, but he was 6'6" and weighed about 360 pounds. I'm 6 feet tall. I weigh about 230 pounds. I'm like a shrimp compared to some of those guys. They are not only big men, but they are also very, very strong. Some of them very athletic. Some worked out a lot, you know. So we just do the best we can, and I sang a lot of Taminos, right? Die Weisheitslehre dieser Knaben, sein Bier ins Herz gegraben. See, the idea is that's a lot easier than trying to pump over the 130-piece orchestra playing fortissimo, and they're always playing your note. They're always on my note, playing with me. No thanks. I'd rather stay out of the. Sometimes when I was a football player, college football player, and there was a piece of advice that they gave all the college football players who played outside. I played. Those of you who know football know what an end is. I played end. I was a receiver. I had to go out and catch passes. But everybody would say, we got to stay out of the pit. Because the pit was the inside of the line, where everybody weighed. They all started about 270 or 280. They were all from 6'6" to 6'9". I thought, you know, really, I think I'll just stay out here and not get it. And that's a little bit the way it is to sing some of those. I sang I did a stage production of Damnation of Faust by Berlioz in Frankfurt. And you walk out and you do that big aria of nature with the orchestra, and you realize the orchestra, you're in the middle voice most of the time, and the orchestra's playing, the whole orchestra seems to be playing your note with you all the time. So what do? You can't yell loud enough to get to use any kind of yelling method to use it. So you try to use good acoustical method. If I can get one of these in my throat, say like this. Remember, what's in Herbert Chazan? It said the true mouth of a singer is the pharynx. The pharynx is way back here. You know, I sang like that let's see, when I was like 26 years old, and I sang in Wiesbaden, which is the state theater. It's a very important theater. They offered me Othello to open the season. Well, of course, I accepted it. What do you think? I thought I was a young Rip Snorton, young Helden tenor or something. And I sang all the notes with piano, and there wasn't any problem, right? And anyway, that summer I was going to open the autumn season, and that summer I was playing touch football, and some guy hit me in the ribs and separated my ribs. And I had to write and say, I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Maybe I can do it later, because I'm wearing a corset and I'm all like this, and my ribs are all held together and everything. And so they wrote me back and said, well, could you do the steersman? That's just the lyric tenor part, light tenor. I said, oh yeah, I should be able to do that. So I sang that and had a lovely time and got rave reviews for my steersman. And it was a wound from God to protect me from singing Othello when I was 26 years old. No, from losing my voice in Othello when I was 26 years old. Lordy, I don't know. You know, the tenors walk in where angels fear to tread. You know what I mean? Let's face it. All right, so just so people get the idea a little bit, don't be afraid. It's not singing in the throat, because singing throatier in the throat means you're flexing muscles here. But as long as you sing, everything is loose, nothing is working here. Therefore, I can use my air column, and that's really pure Garcia school. Lampredi later on started having people saying, well, Garcia had studied babies, and babies had a kind of a miniature cough, he called it. When they cried, they go, So he had his singers coughing, miniature cough. You go, right? If you do that, guess what? Your throat stays completely neutral all the way down. But you're activating the breath against the diaphragm against the chest by going, right? And then about 36 years later, Lampredi published his book, and he came in and said, but wait a minute, I've been studying babies also, and babies say, ah. So now he said the open throat in the Italian school should be the same shape as the ah vowel in the Italian word stai, come stai. If I say the polite form, I say come sta, dove va, cosa fa. But if I'm using a familiar form, I say come stai, dove vai, cosa fai, ah. If I do that, and I take that, it might pull me up. It might raise me up back here. So how do I get that open vowel, let's call it, down low while I use my throat? So I can go low. Okay? Anyway, that's something to think about. I thought I'd get on this minutes about, because so many people have vocal trouble and vocal difficulties, and they're having, all kinds of doctoral treatments on their throats, and they have paralyzed voices and whatever. So I thought I would touch on one of the things that seems to be causing a lot of damage to people's voices. And maybe if you can learn to relax this completely and breathe very deeply, way down behind you, as low as you can, in your tailbone if you can, you go. And you develop that sucking in power which pulls the throat down. And when it does, this relaxes, this all lets go, and everything happens, and you end up singing really diaphragmatically. And you don't need the throat at all, and you can rest it. It's like while I'm singing, my throat is resting. It's a great method if you can figure it out. It's fantastic. It's all based on breathing. Breathing is the only, that's what Richard Tucker would say. See, the voice does nothing. This does nothing. The breath does everything. So you must breathe so much and so often and all day long if you're necessary to get that breath to go way down in your tailbone's a good area. and breathe way down low in the back, and read the Caruso book, or read my book. All those great quotes from those great singers are from all the singers are in my book. If you want to read them all, see what they all had to say. But Caruso, he talks about breathing and how it goes down, it goes out, it goes open, and everything's breathing way down low. And of course, all that sucking air in pulls everything down in a relaxed way. Your larynx will even get lower, but it's relaxed. You don't use press muscles to get it down there. You breathe it down there. See? Okay, hope I'm not repeating myself too much here today. I have a mad habit of repeating myself. I hope you're getting the idea. Okay, bye.